This tutorial is part 2 of a two-part series about the Form Builder module and how to create your own forms and place them on your website. If you haven't watched part 1 already, I recommend that you do so beforehand, as all of the information that you'll see that's already in this tutorial was put in as part of the part 1 of the tutorial. Okay, part 2 is dealing with actually putting questions into the form that we have created. What you see is if I click on the Questions tab, on the left hand side of the page you have a number of options, and on the right hand side, as we start inserting form fields into it, then they will start appearing on the right hand side. We have numerous options available to us. The first is an input box, a radio button with a text box, a checkbox, an add checkbox with text box, add text, and an email address. I'll go through these in detail now. The first on is going to be the add input box. This is the general field that you would see. It's basically you give it a title and it gives you a box where you can free type into it. If we choose edit, we could change the title of the box, in which case I'm going to change this one to name. And I can also specify the size of the box. So if this was going to be a comments box, for instance, I would probably want to make the size large to invite people to write more about it. But as it's a name box, I'm going to choose single line, and I'm also going to make it mandatory so that it has to be filled in order to submit the form. Choosing save, you'll see that the information is updated, including the required information tick at the end of the form field. You'll also see that on this line there is a delete question button, so if we wanted to get rid of this at a later date, we could do just by clicking that and confirming it. Okay, the next one I'm going to add in is the email address, because as I start to capture some information about the people, which is what this form is going to do, I want to first get their own name, and then I'm going to want to be able to have a way of replying to them. So, adding an email address, I can add it in. It's filled in the title already, but I can choose edit and edit that title should I want to. I'm going to make it mandatory, but what I also have the option of doing is making this the reply to email address. Now, in part 1 of the tutorial on the details tab, we did specify a from address, but if we have this email address one ticked, it would actually mean that if you were to reply to it, rather than going back to who the email came from, it would actually reply to the person who submitted it and put their details into this form field. So, choosing save, it will update the information. The next one I'm going to add is a radio button. A radio button, as you can see if I click on it, is where I can have multiple options, but I can only select one of them at a time. So if I go into edit this one, I'm actually going to make this age. Double clicking on the text for option 1, I can then start typing in and changing the text for it. In this case it's going to be under 18. Doing the same for option 2, I'm going to have 18 to 25. Same for option 3, I'm going to have 26 to 40. And then I want to add another one in. So what I'm going to do is on the last one that I have, I'm going to right click, and you'll see that I have an insert or delete option. I don't want to delete it, I want to insert a new one, and it will add it at the end, and it will give it a default label, which I'm going to change, and this is going to be 41 plus. And I'm not going to choose, I'm not going to choose mandatory now, and choose save. You'll see it in action. If I just want to test it, I can specify it and see that that's working just fine. Right, I'm also going to add a new one, a radio button again, but this time with the text box at the bottom of it. So as you can see, we've given several options, then we have our open-ended question option, which is automatically inserted, and some text to actually then start typing into. So, if I was to change this into a real question now, I could choose edit, and this time I'm going to choose nationality. Nationality. And I'm going to put in a couple of options, the first one being British, then I'm going to choose European, and then I'm going to choose American. No, get my typing right. Then I have an option to put in the final one in there. In this case it's going to be other, and then I have the text of the label, box label, and this is going to be please specify. Fine. When I choose save, You'll see that now when I have nationality, I have my options: British, European and American. I have the extra option for other, and underneath it I have the option to specify what that other is going to be. But I can only ever have one of these options selected, which is different to if we were to add a checkbox. So if I was to put a checkbox in, you'll see that when I change it, I can actually have multiple selections available to me. If I choose edit, this time I'm going to want to find out what my hobbies are. And I can give multiple options, and this could be film, reading, sports, or any other different options. If I choose save, you'll see that it updates it, and now when I specify from that list, I can like all of those things, or if I want to, none of those things. Adding a checkbox with a text box is similar to this one here. If I add it to it, it's where I can make multiple selections and leave it open-ended at the end of it, so I can invite people to give me more information that potentially I want to feed back into the form at a later date. But if I'm going to do this, what do I like reading? The first one, we're going to say newspapers. Second one will be books. Third one will be magazines. And then again, I just want to make this other and ask them to please tell me. So please specify. And choose save. So now I can find out what their hobbies are, and also I can find out what they like reading. Right, the next option I have is this add text box. It's not really a question as such, but it does allow me to put some sort of text into the field, which otherwise we wouldn't have options to do. So, if I were to edit this, I have all of the usual rich text editor options available to me, and I can just put a little bit of instruction into it here, saying, if you answered reading in hobbies, please answer the following question. And choose save. But what you'll see is that whenever we add a new item, it's adding it to the bottom of the page. Now, what you can also do is if you hover over the bar which has the edit and the delete question button in, you'll see that it actually turns to a move icon, and which means that if I hold down the left mouse button, I can actually pick up this question and move it around, or in this case it's a text base, but I can actually place after hobbies. So if you answered reading in hobbies here, please answer the following question: what do you like reading? So then we can give them multiple selections within there. Okay, all I need to do now is I've used one of each of the different types of fields. I can save it, and then I can actually go to my web page that we created in part 1 of the tutorial and placed it on, which is the video page. Go to the additional page content, double check that the video tutorial form is in place, which it is. Go to other options and choose preview, and you'll see now that my form is nicely placed on the page ready for people to use. And that's all there is to it. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial.